And I would like to make, as a way of introduction, I would like to make a list of Mr. Avestimehr's achievements, Sharif alumni. How many people are Sharif alumni over here? All right, see, you're at home. Berkeley PhD. Berkeley, we don't hold it against you, but that's okay. Taught E and CS at Cornell and USC. He is an Amazon scholar, IEEE fellow, and you know how important that is and how difficult it is to become an IEEE fellow. Receiver of the Presidential Award for Outstanding Early Career Scientist. President Obama gave you that award. Director of the Information Theory and Machine Learning Research Lab at USC. CEO of FedML, Federated Machine Learning. And the list goes on and on. Mr. Avestimehr, welcome to Persian Tech.
Thank you very much.
Let's take it from the beginning. You grew up in Iran. You went to Sharif. How did studying at Sharif prepare you for doing your eclectic academic work over here? Because you started in academia, you taught, and you did a lot of research.
Yeah, I think the typical path is, Iran is great in building foundations in sciences, like math and physics. So we are all good at that. It's like similar style maybe to France, like that's a French education. So on that side, I think the students from Iran well prepared, and you typically pick careers in, or you go towards higher education in science, engineering. So that's the level of preparation you get.
And in order to get to Sharif, you had to pass the concours. What was your ranking, your concours?
Yeah, I was 2.
You were number 2.
Yeah.
Excellent. And last time I asked this, how many people are 2-digit concours over here? Oh, we have a lot of them. 2 digits. That's not shabby. Not number 2, but 2 digits. Okay. In your extensive career, you worked in both academia and industry. How has this dual experience influenced your approach to research and innovation, particularly in areas like machine learning and blockchain systems?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. I think maybe if you think about in academia, the main important thing is what is the problem you work on. And the advantage is actually you can work on problems that are irrelevant and still nobody can fire you. That's the beauty of academia. But I think the advantage is if you know, maybe you have a foot in industry, you can pick the right problems. Maybe there are very good examples of it. Maybe Berkeley, you can think about Jan Stoiko at Berkeley, great experience on doing in both places like Databricks. Right, so that's the advantage you would get, like picking the right problem to work on. I think that has influenced my group a lot. Students get more excited because they know what are the trending problems. Maybe the papers they write, people read them, they get impact in practice. And then, when you start the company, you also have been solving problems that can be useful there. Yeah.
Very good. Machine learning and information theory, they have an overlap. They have an intersect. And can you explain the intersection between these two disciplines and how they contribute to the advancement of in technology and communication?
Yeah, I mean, they have some intersect, but maybe that's one way to view it. You see, information theory is more of modeling of information systems. Mm-hmm. For example, information theory was very useful in communication systems. Like the first, maybe think about the cellular companies, Qualcomm. They were very successful information theorists that were involved in those companies. The same thing in machine learning, there are many abstractions you can think about defining. Right? These abstractions could be at the algorithmic layer. For example, information theoretic metrics are typically used for assessing how the information flows through neural networks, like how to define a metric, your loss function for training, etc. But I think more generally is a discipline to think about the abstraction, simplifying the problems. For us, it's more of the system view of machine learning systems. Like my area is more at the intersection of machine learning and systems, where it's very challenging to design machine learning systems. And that's where we use a lot of the tools there. Another place is trustworthiness in machine learning. Like, you know, some people are also ask questions on that. Privacy, security are obvious, maybe metrics, but you can think about maybe new notions of trustworthiness. For example, you talk to a chatbot, maybe OpenAI chat, you want to figure out how much can you trust the answer, right? The problem with that is if you talk to me, you ask me a question, if I don't know it, I can be very honest and say I don't know that. But the chatbot is very authoritative, you know, memorizes and, you know, answers you a question. So how would you assess maybe uncertainty in a chatbot is a foundational question. And for that, you know, there are metrics in information theory from entropy you can use, but those are basic starting points. Like I see a lot of innovation could come there for uncertainty, you know, safety of the chatbot. So in general, you know, information theory, that's the advantage. It's a tool that spans several layers, and one can use that. And
part of that trust issues you're trying to solve by not keeping all the information in a central place and a federated machine learning, and we'll get to that. You have an advisory background in Amazon Alexa AI. What are some of the challenges and opportunities you see in the development of an AI-driven voice assistant, and how is the field evolving?
Yeah, very good. Actually, Alexa is a very good example of a B2C, like to consumer use of machine learning, maybe much before OpenAI and the chatbots. It's like in everybody's house. Maybe you buy one, you put in your daughter's bedroom, right? So you can think about it. I mean, it's so sensitive. I mean, these devices can hear, can talk to your child, can have cameras in the new versions.
Can we trust they're not listening?
Yeah, so the answer to that one is yes. Actually, they have good mechanisms, but you can be hacked. That's a whole different story. But nevertheless, in Alexa, actually, we started USC Amazon Center on Trustworthy Machine Learning. And that was really thinking about trustworthiness of a device, machine learning based, that you bring it to your home. And you know, being transparent on what are the potential weaknesses, what are the potential strengths, like the question you ask. I mean, are they listening? Can they be hacked? To some extent, if you work like you are in Amazon, you are a company, you have to be very conservative in your answers. They never answer you. But the beauty is that when you bring those research problems to academia, like everything is open, you can study, you can publish potential, you know, dangers of these systems.
Privacy and security are critical concerns in today's digital landscape. I mean, you talked about my daughter's bedroom, Alexa being over there. I mean, I can't see anything higher than that. How does your work addresses the issues, especially in the context of federated learning and decentralized system?
I think you are referring to the company that we started, FedML. We started by federated machine learning.
Okay.
Which is like a technology to learn from data without sharing.
Yeah, the data stays on the customer side, so I can trust. But you have to send something, some aspects of it.
Excellent. So these technologies, typically they start by maybe in the context of Alexa in your house. All the data stays in your house. You locally train a model. And then these locally trained models would be sent to the cloud, aggregated. And then you only learn the aggregate model. Think about it as like aggregate intelligence across many devices. Okay, so now the potential problem for that is from these aggregate models, could you invert them and maybe learn some of the data?
Yes.
Yeah, those are possibilities. There are research community are pushing on those. But I think maybe to put it in perspective is, if today we are here on privacy, that all the data leaves your house and goes to the cloud. You're
comparing it to that.
Exactly. So it's kind of, we have a very low standard today on privacy, right? You know, the data companies keep collecting our data and making a lot of money on that. This is like a very good starting step to bring data ownership to people. Maybe you can decide what data could be used in training models. And then if you want to contribute, you contribute. If you don't want to contribute, you don't contribute that. But originally that was our starting point to think about, you know, like the area of federated machine learning.
Keeping the data decentralized, doesn't it push, I mean, you have to send some aspects of the data. Doesn't that increase the data, the bandwidth required?
That's why it's challenging.
I
Meaning
see.
that typically you would think the bottleneck is going to be communication because you do a lot of on-device training, right? And then you have to communicate a lot. The magic is, you don't need to, like for example, in a general distributed machine learning on the cloud, after each epoch, maybe you have to do communicating the models. In federated learning, you can do many more local training and communicate much less.
So you save on those, but
Yeah,
you might get into a bottleneck of the information has to go from the learned portion
Yeah,
to the actual center.
correct.
You have seen that.
Yeah.
Okay. The field of machine learning is rapidly evolving. What are some of other recent breakthroughs or developments that you believe will have a profound impact on the industry or society as a whole? What else are we waiting for?
Yeah. Actually, we experienced it in FedML. It's like as soon as we started the company, the whole Gen AI thing happened, and we had to keep pivoting and finding new things. Originally, we thought data is the bottleneck, right? The technology is learned from decentralized data, which is still a lot of demand for it. Like many data companies, they don't want to collect the data because of maybe GDPR, DMA, etc. But then, because of the Gen AI, there is a lot of decentralized compute, and the compute shortage is becoming important. Right? For us, we are a decentralized technology. So for example, something that we have done is federated learning and FedML can be used for accessing GPUs. Right? So for example, there are many GPU providers. Right now, if you want to use one, maybe you want to use AWS, you go there, you maybe hook up with them, install, get instances, and then tomorrow somebody tells you Lambda has better pricing.
Yeah.
Somebody tells you, CoreWeave is coming with better pricing. That's another example of decentralized compute resources, not the data. So for example, something that these couple of years there is shortage, and I think decentralized technology like Uber can get, make access to compute much easier. So for example, in FedML, in the new offering, we build FedML launch any machine learning task. It's like a Uber style. The same way as Uber uses decentralized cars to serve your task. Right now you can find resources across any cloud provider or GPU provider to serve your job.
Do you think those hardware, the
Yeah.
H100 boxes, are going to be the bottleneck soon?
I think maybe this year, next year, in the next 2 years, the belief is that you need H100 to develop, your best machine learning. I think that's the hype that NVIDIA is pushing for. Like you think if you want to be competitive on ML, you need to buy the high-end machines. I think it will saturate maybe 2 years from now for two reasons. One is, first of all, on the research side, you hear maybe people can serve LLMs on the phone. Soon they start training them on maybe even lower end GPUs, maybe eventually getting serving to the CPU. So it means that the research is pushing to making it easier on lower end GPUs. The other side is maybe you don't need many, right? Right now everybody is developing many foundational models. That's where you need many high-end GPUs. But maybe there is going to be a couple of base foundational models on vertical, and everybody uses them for fine-tuning and building the solutions.
So there is going to be some sharing of those resources.
Exactly.
You advise for buying those hardware modules, or stay away from it and let systems like AWS handle it?
Yeah, I advise for my expectation is in the next 2 years, there is going to be, GPU market going up.
Yeah.
After that, maybe data becomes another commodity. Maybe the models you train become the commodity.
Excellent.
So, but anyway, that's my guess.
For aspiring researchers and professionals in machine learning and related fields, and I'm sure many of them are here in the audience, what advice do you have for staying at the forefront of innovation and for making meaningful contributions to the field? What should people do?
Oh, that's a very general question. I don't know.
Well, limited
maybe
to
I
the
mentioned
machine
in my
learning.
perspective. Yeah,
Yes.
I think for us is building a moat is very important, especially in machine
Building a
learning.
moat.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of in machine learning, you see everybody maybe try to build something quick. In the short run, maybe you get lucky and pays off. In the long run, I think worth spending time meaning that not viewing it necessarily as a very fast race, but as opposed to building a core, right? For example, think about Gen AI. Many people say Google doesn't have a moat, which is not the case. I mean, they have a lot of moat. You just don't see that is not the model they built.
They don't
it's
let you
more
know
of
that.
Scaling. They can
Yeah.
build a scalable machine learning system. So the question is like those moats, how do you position yourself as building something that is not replicated easily? So that's, I think, the view that we have.
If you think that was general, I'm going to ask an even more general question. What advice would you offer to budding entrepreneurs who want to work on their own ideas, raise capital, and start their own startup, hoping to hit a jackpot or capture a unicorn?
I think that's also field dependent, but maybe in machine learning, I mean, that's the topic I know more, and software. At least something we tried in university, and you see many startups from university, they start by open source. It's kind of you test the market, you check the product market fit by releasing open source, figuring out the adoption. And I think it's a safer bet in the sense that before you are starting the company, you figure out the adoption, you get the usage. The challenge is making money out of open source, right? You have to figure out how you are going to make the money out of that. But that to me is safer. You get to know, like check it with low risk. Mm-hmm. The other side of it is maybe being less conservative in the sense of there are ideas that you may think, maybe I put it in perspective. For example, federated learning, we started by solving a much more difficult problem of training machine learning models over mobile phones. Mm-hmm. Much simpler one is just doing it on the cloud. And then, recent ML ops that got acquired $1 billion. Not that it's easier, but it's kind of, you don't need to go after the most difficult problem, nail it before launching a company, right? So put that in perspective where you want to operate and when you start.
When you said less conservative, or less conservative, as you said, do you mean like share ideas because people are not after your ideas, it's execution? That's my interpretation.
Oh, no. Actually, for that one, I meant being open source. You share everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. But what I meant was, don't think you have to solve really difficult problems to have a business impact. Yeah.
My last question before we get, hopefully, to some of your questions, so be prepared for one or two questions after this. Blockchain technology has gained significant attention in recent years. What are the most promising applications of blockchain systems you view, and how do they relate to your experience in information theory and security/privacy?
Yeah, very good questions, actually, you are asking. I think Web3 and blockchain, again, they are decentralized technology. That's why I admire them. I really love them, and also bodes well with what we are doing. Typically, they're very good at building incentive mechanisms and marketplace. Right, so that's one scenario. Maybe you want to build a marketplace on data, compute, and incentive around that, meaning that people contribute their data, but they stay around. Okay, so blockchain is fantastic in that. You see, the blockchain communities don't disappear. People stick to it because they have a lot of stake in the game and very strong incentive. The other one is the transparency and trustworthiness. Right? For example, blockchain systems are fully open. You can audit them. You can check everything, like you can build a proof of work. Yeah. You can build various proofs, which I think would be needed in machine learning area. For example, let's say you want to know where is your data being used, or this chatbot is trained on what data, right? Who has been training it? I mean, you hear a lot on the copyright. Maybe one way to address the copyright is to have more transparency on what data is feeding there. But a short maybe answer to that is, I think, on building community and incentive mechanism, and the other one, trustworthiness.
The copyright issue opens another can of worms of a lot of things. I don't think we have time for that, but that would be very interesting. I would like to open the floor to one or two questions as our time may permit. We are running out of time quickly. Anybody? We have a question over here. Can we get a mic over here? Roshan, can we? Oh, Mohammed Reza has it, yes. Thank you.
So very interesting thought. Thank you so much for sharing. So regarding back to the blockchain idea that, and I'm not sure how much you are involved in the genome, human genome data. What is your perspective using the blockchain for human genome data, as it's very large, and really the privacy and security of data is so sensitive in healthcare?
Yeah, I haven't been involved in the human genome data, but I think if you are asking for the privacy, right, one approach is, so think about the privacy is your data stays with you, but I need to train my machine learning model on your data and then combining them together. Right? The advantage of blockchain is that you can keep your data, train the model, and prove to me that the model is trained on your data. Right? So that way it becomes trustworthiness, the data ownership stays with you, and then you can get rewarded by how much you contribute. Right? So maybe that's one way.
Personally, my concern about blockchain is that how expensive would be, you know, because it's my understanding that you have multiple copy of the same, let's say, chunk of data. And is it really, you need to have multiple copy across different servers? Is it really the case? If this is the case, then that would be very expensive.
So you mean for bringing your data on-chain, or?
No, the way that the blockchain works. Do you really need
so
the
blockchain becomes expensive if you want the data to be on-chain. Because once it is on-chain and then it is stored there, you have to pay, let's say, Ethereum gas fee, right? But what I told you is that your data could stay off-chain. The proof of your computation comes on-chain. That's the way you can make it scalable. If you want to keep bringing, like many people talk about, bring all the data on the chain, and then it's fully transparent, you can train on it. In my opinion, that's not scalable, exactly because you are saying so costly.
Yes.
Like even a smart contract, you want to bring it on chain, you have to pay a lot of Ethereum fee. But it would be more of data stays off chain. The proof of machine learning jobs come on chain. Maybe you do roll up or other things.
Last question. Anybody? Oh, we have a question back there. Can we get the mic over there, please? You can just hand it to people.
So you mentioned about work on trustworthiness of machine learning model or system.
Can you talk a little bit louder, or
Sure.
Sean, can you get it higher? Yeah.
There is a saying that if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And in machine learning, we know that the metric is very important so that we have a good judgment of how we are performing, then we can work on it. When the system becomes big, then defining the metric becomes complicated. And when we are dealing with the ideas or the things that are not well defined, like trust, then it becomes even more difficult. Now, in general and in specifically, yeah. So I would like to say, if you can say a few words about what metric you use in a problem like trustworthiness, and when the system is complicated, then in what way you define?
How do you measure trustworthiness?
Yeah, that's the golden question. I wish I knew. But typically you break it to layers, meaning that trustworthiness has many spectra, right? Meaning privacy, security, we all know. The newer notion is maybe consistency, right? Then there is going to be integrity. Then, you can have confidence as a way of measuring. But for any of those, you can define various metrics. I mentioned to you one of them that we have done work and we know more is more of confidence of the model. Like you see, a person is trustworthy if they are honest on what they know and what they don't know. That's one measure, right? For that one, you can measure it very well. Means that is this LLM aware of the answer that is giving, right? Or is it just has low bar on confidence? So that one you can define it, and there are different versions. But if you are mentioning it maybe more philosophical, would this LLM really know the problem and the solution of it? How much score does it have? Those are more difficult. You need human in the loop, maybe defining them later. But this area is evolving, meaning we shouldn't expect, think about privacy, right, has been decades in the work. That right now we can measure it, you can have regulations on it. this one we shouldn't expect like regulations. Maybe they can quickly come in to force something quick, but I think it's gonna be a decade work. That by next decade maybe we have nailed this problem.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Plug and Play, Persian Tech Network, and Persian community, I thank you very much for coming over
Thank
here.
you.